Hello everyone. Once again, welcome to our webinar series. I'm Saranya. I'm product marketer here at Facilio, and I'll be hosting this webinar along with Vishak, who's our lead solution architect. So before we dive in, let me quickly give you a layout of the scene on how this webinar is structured. So we will kickstart a 20-minute discussion where Vishak and I will discuss why it is necessary for CMMS tools to embrace interoperability, and it should come with the ability to be easily integrated with systems and business apps in your tech stack. Suppose that we'll have a lively Q&A session. So this part of the webinar will be completely driven by you. So we encourage all of you to pose your questions in the Q&A tab, and we'd be happy to share our thoughts around it. But please do note that we'd be taking the questions only at the end of the 20-minute discussion, and we request you to keep sending your questions until then, and we'll pick them up one by one and address them. And at the end of the webinar, we'll be sure to send over a recording to you so you can look at it later. With that, let me quickly move on to the agenda for today. I'll start off with a quick introduction about Facilio and dive into why a CMS or a KFM system should integrate with the rest of your IT stack. We'll also go on to discuss the benefits of such an interoperable CMMS system. And Vishak will take over from there and give us real life use cases and tell you how our customers have solved problems with interoperability. Post that, we'll have a quick Q&A session like I mentioned before. So to quickly give you a brief about Facilio. Facilio is an AI-driven property operations platform from the cloud, and we help real estate owners and FM teams to collect building data and optimize operational processes and increase your efficiency for your entire portfolio, all from a single console. So we operate across verticals, right from commercial real estate to retail and healthcare, and we help you on your path to time and cost savings in building operations. And we've been recognized by the PropTech community as market leaders and of course as pioneers in the connected CMMS space, with Facilio being the first of its kind to bring together all aspects of your property O&M collectively into a single space. So we've all to also give you a brief about the resources that we have, we've recently launched a connected CMMS evaluation guide. So it's a comprehensive bias guide to choose the right CMS that fits your needs. We've done a lot of research to craft this guide, so you wouldn't have to, spell it out with tedious research. We also have other industry reports and case studies and basically any material at all that you might find useful in your O&M journey. So you can check out these resources on our website and write to us your requirements as well, and we'll be sure to mail them to you. Okay, so with that, let's go on to decode interoperability in O&M today and how CMS are closed systems and in silos. Right, so we previously asked CMMS users about what frustrated them the most while using the tool. And not surprisingly, a majority of the respondents found it most difficult to bring together all their application systems and make them talk to each other. So if you take a typical setup in, say, a workspace or in any CRA establishment, you have your business applications like ERP, CRM, accounting softwares, communication tools like Slack, and also the OT components like your HVAC systems, your IoT sensors, and a whole bunch of other components. For a smooth workday, you require all of these systems and apps to work together without any interruptions. Because the area where most money is spent in a building portfolio is in the operations and the maintenance side, to ensure that all these components work without interruptions. So that being the case, a maintenance management tool should have access to data from all of these systems. Yet we see that most CMMS tools today are just standalone systems. So this is a broad representation of how the scenario is today. So we often have to juggle between multiple systems. When, say when there's an equipment malfunction or a breakdown, a tenant or an occupant has to manually raise a ticket in the help desk. This will then be intercepted manually by the FM teams, and they will have to use spreadsheet again to manually check the list of all the vendors and raise a request to them to go fix the issue. Now, if this is the scenario, Imagine like if there also has to be an asset purchase or an invoicing and approvals process that follows all of this. So all of this has to be completed manually. Now, if you scale this to a portfolio of multiple spaces, you can imagine the amount of time that it eats up. So much so that you are constantly logging into multiple tools and updating information and spending time on data entry rather than fixing the issue. And you're also left with disgruntled, unhappy tenants. On the other hand, if you see the flip side, large organizations have tried their hand at integrating the CMS and have failed. Now, if we look back and think about the reasons, one would be that CMS systems are by themselves closed off and do not offer out-of-the-box integration capability. So they do not have the API support necessary for integration. And also, the apps that are used in the tech stack are themselves legacy systems with heavy technical complexities. So it isn't easy to untangle them, and then it only ends up burning a hole in the budget. Now, this clearly isn't a very productive way to handle CMS operations, right? What we need is a tool where your OT systems, your manual tools, your IT business apps all find a way into a single tool, which makes it easier for stakeholders at every level, like vendors, tenants, FMs, to easily view data, control operations without having to log into multiple tools repeatedly. So now, when a tenant raises a complaint, every workflow, right from notifying the vendor, purchasing, or placing a purchase order, sending a feedback form, it is all automated. So I'll just stop right now, and then I'll launch a poll.
Yeah, I think this is the perfect time to launch a poll on getting some audience feedback on how they are evaluating CMMS today and what issues they're facing.
So if you're someone who's already led O&M initiatives, so which of these system struggles can you relate to the most? So it's a single choice answer. So let's pick the ones that trouble us the most.
And everyone, the reason behind asking this question right now is so that we can tailor our presentations accordingly, because we really want to get feedback and tune it specifically to the audience here today.
That's right.
So Saranya, has everyone voted?
Yes, people are in the process of voting. So we see that choices 1, 2, and 4 are equally troublesome. And of course, people are also saying that all of the options are really troubling them. So we'll give it another 20 seconds and see what the trend is, what the people are telling us. Right, so I'm closing the poll.
You can publish the results, I think.
Yes, and I'm sharing the results right now.
You can see that almost 37% of people here today are facing all these challenges.
All of these challenges, yes. And not surprisingly, so when it comes to silo tools, that's how the trend is right now. Yeah. So let's move on with the presentation. So far we've seen how the current CMS tools are and what would an integrated CMS tool would look like and how it would benefit us. Now, let's deep dive a little more into the benefits section. So once you perfect the integration, so it opens up a whole bunch of benefits that follow. So one is that when you connect data from multiple systems, you can then go on to automate repetitive processes. Like when I was previously talking about having to search for a vendor manually once a complaint is raised, you won't have to do that anymore because now your vendor information is in the same system as where a service request is raised, and you can automate vendor assignment based on compliance. Like the system will automatically check if the required insurance details and are present for that particular vendor, and if they have completed the necessary safety checks, all the induction programs that they have, and the list of vendors that have completed all the necessary checks are picked, and their availability is checked, and the work order is automatically assigned to them. So that is one benefit, that you can automate processes. Similarly, you can also eliminate the need for manual entry into each system. And with that, remove duplicates or avoid the human error aspect, which messes up the entire operational cycle, costing you a lot of time and money. So this in turn also speeds up processes. So work gets done quickly, and you have accurate visibility into every stage of the process. And this valuable data will help you plan for future optimization and process improvements. To maximize the benefits that we've seen so far and get from interoperability, Facilio takes the connected CMMS approach. So we create a truly interoperable CMS by not just bringing in systems together with shared data, but also by bringing together people who are the stakeholders, by giving them access to this data, and also the ability to improve processes on the fly through automation. So we are laying a strong foundation through integrated systems over which people can collaborate seamlessly by automating processes and eliminating manual stop gaps. So with such a system in place, all working in synergy, we can move up the O&M ladder and start working towards the next step, which is process optimization, and from there truly achieve connected efficiency. Now, to quantify all of this with real-life use cases where our customers have benefited from this connected approach, I will hand over the session to Vishal. But before that, let me also trigger a second poll so that we can get what the people are thinking about. So yeah. So how are your O&M teams experiencing the lack of interoperability features in your CMS and Kafka? Are you seeing data silos or process silos? Is it hard to manage scaling? Or are you struggling to launch optimizations? So which of these problems are you facing because of the lack of interoperability? Are we seeing a lot of people are saying that there are process silos? That is, there's manual intervention, and they'll have to do a lot of logins between different apps in their tech stack. So I'll run this poll for another 15 seconds. So if you have an answer, please look through the options and tell us which is affecting you the most.
As everyone is answering this, I'll quickly share my screen and get started with.
Yeah. Just a second, Vishak, I'm ending the poll and I'm also sharing the results. So like I mentioned, we see that a lot of people are saying that there are process silos. That is what is mostly affecting their from achieving truly efficient operations.
Yeah, with data in multiple systems, it takes a lot of time to consolidate all that data, and manually logging in is a lot of time and effort is involved there. It makes sense that we're seeing that as one of the most issues that cause the most pain. So in any case, I'll start sharing my screen, and we'll go over a couple of use cases like Saranya mentioned, and talk a little bit more about that in detail. So let me know if you can see my screen. Just one second. Is the presentation visible?
Yes, Vishak.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So as Sharanya mentioned at the start of this presentation, a connected CMMS really is something that can sort of break down these barriers of data and connect with all of these different sources of information across a real estate portfolio, gather all that data in a single place, and then deliver insights to the different stakeholders in real time as things happen. And that is our approach with the Facilio platform. And this is the architecture at a high level. And today we're really going to be focusing on what underpins all of these various solutions or benefits that customers can see, and that is the integrations layer in the bottom. And that is really what unlocks the power of that data, because we're able to connect with all of the different systems, whether it is the underlying BMS within the building, whether it is an accounting platform that is being used in ERP system, a database with tenant information, vendor information. All of these different siloed data sets can all be connected, and therefore value can be realized very quickly and easily. So that's going to be the core focus of our presentation over the next couple of slides. I'll be talking about three broad use cases. One, really talking about how a particular customer has achieved better visibility through data consolidation through the mode of integration. So that is really the first step in terms of the evolution of a connected approach of operations. And the second step is then leveraging that data to automate a lot of the workflows or manual processes that happen. And then the third step of that evolution is taking that to the next level in terms of real-time optimization of the underlying assets across the building. So this is what I'll be taking you through over the next couple of slides. So starting with the first use case, which is for a large conglomerate based out of the UAE. They have a large number of asset classes ranging from retail stores to large commercial office spaces, and they're one of the largest owner operators in the Middle East. And for them, they had a problem that we've seen a lot across the industry, and I'm sure all of you are familiar with, is that they had multiple systems. So they had Salesforce to manage tenant contact information. They had a separate ERP system that was used for accounting. Their help desk teams were still using spreadsheets to keep a track of tickets. And there was also a lot of paperwork involved. So all of their tenant contracts, everything was on paper. And therefore, whenever there was an issue raised, there was a lot of manual process involved in terms of logging into these different systems to figure out what's happening and how to best present the data back to the tenant in terms of saying, hey, we've got great SLAs, or this particular contract or this particular work order has not been paid for yet. So these sort of data gaps were present because people did not have insight into what is actually happening on the field as they happened. So what Facilio was able to do is first aggregate all this data, bring it onto a single place, and then add contextual information to the different stakeholders involved. And so this data consolidation really helped dramatically improve visibility for the property management teams, and they had more confidence, and they were able to talk to their tenants in a much better fashion. So that really was the advantage that this particular client had. So this, I think, explains that in more detail. So you can see here, these are the various siloed systems they were having, and a simple use case which they were talking about, one of the real pain points they had was whenever a tenant was moving out, they had to make sure that the various outstanding payments were resolved and the contract was signed off, and the various steps had to happen And this required a lot of manual legwork across their Salesforce system, across their accounting software, and across spreadsheets to check if work orders had been closed out. So there's a lot of calls and emails and a lot of manual processes. So it took a very long time to actually close out that particular job or that particular ticket. Versus on the right-hand side, what we were able to do was integrate all of these data sets in a single place. And whenever they were raising a request like this, they had all the data in hand and they had more confidence in saying, okay, these are the XYZ invoices that are due to be paid. These are the contract terms that have to be signed off. And all of that information was there right at hand as they needed it. And this really helped streamline and fast track any tenant requests that came in. So this is really about how they were able to gain more visibility and therefore more control across all that data set. And I think these screenshots sort of showcase that really easily. We were able to bring in all their tenant information, receipt data, contact information, all of that in a single place. And they are able to look at this data in real time and make sure that whenever tenants had asked for something, they had this data readily available. And they had insight into the service tickets that are being generated, the cost, whether it was downstream with subcontractors or vendors, or with the incoming payments from the tenants themselves. So all of this visibility was sort of achieved through the Facilio platform. So you can see here the before was really that they had standalone systems, a lot of workflows that were manual or paper-based, that they had to make calls, and they had no visibility. And once the platform was implemented and we were able to integrate with all of these different systems, they were able to consolidate all their data. They had transparency in the reporting. They were able to fast track a lot of these processes because all the data is readily available. And they therefore had improved business workflows. So this is really the sort of first step to achieving optimization across their O&M. This was the data consolidation use case. And I think the next use case is a little bit more powerful, in the sense that we've gone one step further in the evolution journey. So this is for an Australian client of ours, a large property management firm. They have over $11 billion worth of assets, and they were able to dramatically improve compliance and reduce turnaround times using the Facilio platform through unlocking the data that already existed and sort of sharing that, and we're able to collaborate really easily. So if I go over to the next section here, you can see that they had various systems, again, similar to our previous use case. So here they had a vendor compliance management software called SASE. They had Yardi, which is a property management system, and they had spreadsheets that were being used by the FM teams for maintenance. So I'm sure, as you all know, Yardi is difficult to integrate with, but Facilio was able to achieve that. We were able to integrate with Yardi, bring in all their tenant information, their vendor information, vendor contact data, and we were able to bring all that into a single place. So before implementing the platform, the main issue was whenever a work order was raised, for example, they had no visibility into the compliance of certain vendors that had to go and do that particular activity. They had to manually log in to all of these various systems and extract that data to figure out which particular vendor had to go and do that job, were they compliant, did they have the relevant certifications, etc. And that therefore took a long time. So there was a lot of manual legwork, and therefore there was lost time, and there was heavy resource cost and manual labor involved. And what we were able to do then is we were able to integrate all of these different data sets, bring it to a single place, but then achieve a next level of automation. So really the power of integrating and making these systems interoperable is that they're free to sort of optimize their business processes and their workflows and make it more efficient and more streamlined. And therefore they're able to automate this vendor assignment process, which is really a pain point for them. They're able to therefore improve turnaround times for tickets, making their tenants more happy, and they had real-time visibility into their tenant satisfaction. So if you look at how that turned out, this was exactly like this. We had, if you look at on the left-hand side here, we have the actual workflow that they were using before the actual integration took place. So there was a lot of manual processes in terms of retrieving data, in terms of what vendor had to be assigned to a particular site, where they compliant to do that particular job, and then capturing feedback and capturing real-time data from the vendors in terms of have they completed that activity satisfactorily, have they done the required due diligence, and all of these different things, which is really hard for them to keep a track of. But on the right, you can see that once the Facilio platform is implemented, the tenants were able to raise these tickets through the platform. The vendor was automatically selected through that integration with Yardi. The Facilio platform knew that this is the vendor, and they were able to check that if the right insurance documentation was there, right warranty contract details were there. All the compliance checks and assignment was automatically done with the relevant notifications going out. So this has gone one step above data consolidation, which is really using that integrated data to then automate a lot of the manual tasks that have to happen, and therefore improve the actual business process. And you can see some of the screenshots here in terms of getting all the vendor details, contract details, compliance data, all of that in a single place. And we were able to really improve the actual process in terms of vendor management for this particular client. So you can see that before was really that they had a lot of touch points for data. It was a lot of time taken to actually consolidate this information and then figure out which vendor had to do that activity. There was a lack of insight into what was happening on the ground, because whenever tenants were calling them and asking them, hey, what's going on? It's been so long since I submitted this particular ticket. They didn't have visibility into, did that vendor do it? Have they done it right? And they had a lot of manual workflows there. So I'm sure in the FM industry, all of you would be sort of able to associate with this use case. And on the right, you can see that once we sort of integrated all these data sets, one single login gave them access to all of this data, and all of the workflows that had to happen were automated to a large extent, and therefore it improved their SLA times. Therefore at the end of the day, they were able to reduce their tenant escalations by 82%. So that really is the power of the integration for this particular client here. So the last step in this sort of evolution journey is actually achieving optimization, right? And here, this is the use case we're talking about is a very large owner operator in the UK. I think they have more than 15 billion pounds worth of assets across the UK and the EU. And here they were able to really achieve reduced energy consumption and increased occupant comfort through integration with the Facilio platform. And so before implementation, one of the really pain points that they had was they did not know if they could optimize their actual HVAC based on demand. So they had all of these different data sets in terms of air quality data. They had occupancy sensors. They had a visitor management system. They had a meeting room booking system. But their BMS was still doing the same thing. It was still controlling their HVAC based on time schedules rather than based on demand. With the flexible working, everybody's coming to office 2-3 times a day. Meetings are happening in specific time slots, but that room was always being heated or always being cooled. So what we were able to do is first bring in all these data sets in a single place, and then automate the actual actions that had to happen downstream with the BMS to actually reduce energy consumption and improve occupant comfort based on the demand and of the tenant or the occupant in that building. So you can see that this really helped reduce energy consumption and improve occupant comfort. So you can see here that these were all the different systems on the bottom left-hand side here. And we were first consolidating that data, bringing it onto a single place. That really unlocked the potential for optimization. And then we were able to automate the sort of manual process that had to happen with checking the BMS, using the integration that we did using the platform. We were able to write back to various set points in the HVAC for the building. And that algorithm was then deployed across the portfolio, because Facilio is an enterprise platform. It connects all these data sets at an enterprise scale across all these different buildings. And once this algorithm was written once, it was applied at scale, and we were able to optimize the performance of the actual buildings across the entire portfolio. So based on the actual the real-time occupancy, based on whether the meeting room was booked or not, based on real-time air quality, we're writing back set points, saving energy, and improving occupant comfort. And these are some of the reporting and dashboarding that we created for them, just to give you a feel for it. We're collecting occupancy data, energy consumption data, visitor management information. All of that is consolidated, and we're making sure that the air quality is also with the right amounts of fresh air in the property. So hopefully these 3 use cases have given you a feel for the power of integration and the reason and the need for interoperable systems. So you can see here in this particular client's case that they had a lost opportunity. They were not able to leverage the data that they already had. They had a great dashboard, 5 different dashboards, but the so what aspect was missed, where we are able to now integrate with these systems and actually action the insight that these systems are delivering and actually save energy, therefore reduce operational cost and improve occupant comfort. So I think that is our use cases for today. And we will break over to the question and answer session. I'll let Saranya sort of host this. So back to you, Saranya.
Yes, Vishak. So yes, there are quite a few questions. So the first one, Richard Tooley asks, how do you interact with the BIM models?
Yes, that was a really good question. I'm just going to go back to that architecture slide. So the BIM models are a very good representation of that building, right? And most platforms don't leverage BIM post-construction of that property. But what Facilio is able to do is bring that BIM model alive. So we can actually take the asset data, the space information within that BIM model, and use that to populate all the different data sets across the modules, whether it's asset management, maintenance management, all that data is populated. And whenever different work orders are being raised, for example, they're tagged to that particular asset on the BIM model. And the BIM model is then used as a visual representation of real-time activities that are going on in that property. For example, if an asset has undergoing maintenance, it is sort of highlighted in red. If a particular asset is undergoing downtime, that is highlighted. You can also overlay different KPIs. For example, looking at air quality performance across a particular floor, that can be highlighted there. So BIM is then used as an operational layer to visualize what's going on, rather than just a static model in the construction phase. So that's how we leverage BIM.
Right, Vishak. So in continuation to that, we can say that Chris Irwin's question falls in line. So he asks, please explain how you connect all the data sets.
Perfect. So a really good question, Chris. So it really depends on the kind of data. So I would say there are two buckets of data, right? One is real-time information, and then there is static data sets. Real-time data, I mean, time series data like energy, data points from the BMS, chiller, boiler, etc. So for that, we have developed an edge component to our platform that sits within the building. It collects all these data sets in real time and sends it to the cloud. And that is completely hardware and vendor agnostic. And it is really powerful in terms of being able to sit in any environment. So it can be in a virtual machine, it can be in a simple gateway. Depending on the client's needs, we can configure it in however sort of mode we require. So that is in terms of the real-time data aspect. In terms of the static data, whether it is, let's say, tenant information, warranty contracts, insurance documentation, all of these things is just through APIs. So our platform is completely open. So Facilio can integrate with any system. For example, we were talking about Salesforce, Oracle, JD for that use case. We used REST APIs to integrate with that. So as long as APIs are available, we can integrate with really any system. And the opportunity is really endless.
Yes, so he also asked how much programming is required to achieve these integrations. So I think you answered that question when you said that we are a low-code platform and we can easily integrate with any sort of system. So do you want to add anything to that, Vishak, or shall we move on to the next question?
Well, yeah, sure. So in terms of how much effort is required, it really depends on the complexity of the integration. Most of the times these days, we've seen that other systems have good documentation, and using that, our developers are able to integrate within days. So it's definitely not going to take months of effort. It's just understanding the scope and then writing the right amount of code to complete this integration. So it doesn't take much time at all.
Right. So the next question is by Alexander Willman, who asks, how does your CMMS compare to Maximo?
Perfect. So I think Maximo as a CMMS, it is a really good tool. But what we have seen is that Maximo is slightly rigid in terms of mobile applications. It has a pretty high cost, and it doesn't have the capability to sort of add intelligence within Maximo itself in terms of real-time data-based applications. So if, let's say, we're doing the optimization use case, which I was talking about, that would not be possible within Maximo itself. It might require a separate integration with our other third-party system to actually be able to complete that. Whereas Facilio, being an extensible platform, these are all deployed within the Facilio tech stack itself. So it doesn't require multiple integrations beyond what is already capable in the platform. So we would just integrate with the underlying data set to complete that particular use case. So the power of the platform is what is being used. I think that really is the key differentiator there.
Awesome. So next question, Vishak, is something that we get asked often. So how did you interface with Yardi? How much effort was this?
So with Yardi, it was actually, I'm sure, as you know, Yardi is a little difficult to integrate with. So it took us, our team, a little bit of time to figure out what middleware to use and how to fetch these data sets. But for that particular client, they had it in a particular format in terms of the fields that we wanted to capture. And it took us around a month's time to actually complete that integration.
Right. So the next question is, does Facilio include a feature for annual O&M budgeting for future years?
Yes. So we have budget management as well as a sort of module within the platform. And that is possible. Yes. And if you would like to sort of go over any of the things that we talked about, or if you have any sort of more detailed questions that you'd like to sort of look at the platform and get a feel for it yourself, please touch base with us, and we will be happy to have a demo of the platform for you. So we have our sort of contact details here. So if anybody would like to get in touch with us, please feel free to do so.
Vishak, last couple of questions, and we'll wrap up with that. So the next question is the edge gateway configurable, or is programming required? APIs generally require some programming, right?
Yeah, so with the edge part of it, the Facilio edge is unique in the sense that it's purely software. We're not a hardware seller. So our software edge can sit within any environment. And most of the times it's say in a virtual machine in the same network, in an industrial PC, in a simple gateway. And in most of the cases, it doesn't require any programming because we're going to be communicating across standard building protocols, whether it is backend over IP, Modbus, OPC. These are all protocols that we support natively. So there is no additional code that has to be written to actually communicate with these systems. So that really is the power of the platform. And if there are, let's say, legacy systems that require some level of additional driver configuration, the Facilio platform is extensible. So there's a low-code layer to it. So any drivers, etc., can be built out as the need arises as well.
Right. So Vishak, Lawrence has asked that he's not clear about the integration tool set. So is it a separate layer or application, or is it included with the core CMMS functionality?
So the integration tool set is a core part of the functionality itself. I'm just going to head back to that architecture slide so that you get a little bit more understanding. So you can see here that the integration layer spans all the different modules, all the different capabilities that we have, and it is not a separate functionality. It is sort of the core that powers the entire platform itself. The platform itself is open, and it has the capability to integrate, and we can do so in all these different needs.
Right. So last question, Vishak. How do I know what data sets I want to look, or what data assets do I ask for?
Sorry, can you repeat that? What data?
How do I know what data sets I want to look, or what data assets do I ask for?
Right. So we normally work really closely with our customers and our partners. So we really identify what their business need is and what use cases or pain points they really have. And for example, with the 3 use cases that we talked about today, we narrowed these problems down with our customer by having workshops with them to figure out what their business need was. So based on that business need, we would configure the platform accordingly, and the relevant data points would be taken into account. So it really just is a collaborative work between us Facilio, partners, and our customers to figure out which buttons to press and what will sort of unlock the most value.
Right. Sorry, Rishabh, just one more question and we'll end with this. So knowing you are a data-driven platform, do you have solutions for enhanced graphics for integrated systems, particularly HVAC systems?
Yeah, so the Facilio platform has graphics capabilities as well. But what we have seen clients move towards is more using dashboards and reports that are real time rather than relying on BMS graphics. And most of the times they would like to automate most of the actions that have to happen. So we have a low code process builder that allows us to automate sequences of operations that have to happen based on data points. The third use case that we talked about today with the set point optimization was exactly that. And then the actual outcome of that is showcased in reports and dashboards. And that also means it's accessible in the mobile, and it makes it really friendly for different kinds of stakeholders involved. So even though there is graphics, we normally like to configure these sort of real-time dashboards and reports, and that we've seen add more value for clients.
All right, so I think that's we've exhausted all our questions, and we've come to the end of the webinar. So thanks everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you took away some valuable lessons on why CMS should be an integrated system and not remain in silos. If you have any further questions, please feel free to write to us, and we'll send you, all the resources that we have your way, or we can also set up on-one calls and we can discuss this further. So thank you. We'll be sure to send out a recording of this webinar once this is done. So thanks everyone. Thank you. See you around.
Thanks everyone. Thank you.